I have to speak about someone that we sadly lost 40 plus years ago, but back in the news, John Lennon. Now, you at a very early age, you had the fortune of meeting him and working with him, didn't you? So how did all that come about?
Well, that came about because the band I was playing with, which was a nine-piece band, we had four horn players. It was a really good band. I was 16 years old, and Jimmy Iovine was our producer, brought us into the record plant, and they gave us a rehearsal room all the time, whenever we wanted. So we used to hang out at the record plant in New York City. And one night, Jimmy Iovine called us up. We were upstairs rehearsing, and he said, "Can you come down and do hand claps?" We went, "Sure." So we go down to the studio, and there's Jimmy with John Lennon, and we walk in going, "Oh my God, John Lennon." So we went into the room and put headphones on. Now he's talking to you, and it's just like, what a trip. And I'm thinking, I gotta go to school the next day after this. And we did hand claps on the song, Whatever Gets You Through the Night. And that went well. And then, I guess John found out we rehearsed upstairs and we were cool. We weren't fanboys.
Mhm.
So he felt safe around us. So he used to come up and watch us rehearse. And we had a pool table up there, and we used to play pool with him. And then he asked us to do 3 videos with him. And he really liked the band. The band was good. I heard that he was thinking of using us as his next band. That's how good the band was. And we did 3 videos with him that have been released on his DVDs. And we did, he produced the owner of the record plant's wife. She was a singer. And she wasn't known, but he produced 8 songs, and we were the band. So we worked with him as a producer. And then he asked us to do a gig he had at the New York Hilton, and it was a black tie affair, and it was televised around the world. And we were the band. He asked us to do it. And we played 3 songs with him. Imagine Stand By Me and Slipping and Sliding. And then a few years ago, probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I found out that was his last live appearance.
Oh, wow.
It was in a Guitar Aficionado magazine. And there's a big picture of John and the band. I was right next to John. It mentions me because I played with Sabbath and Dio, and I went on to do bigger things. And mentions me and John. And then it says it's his last live appearance. And I'm like, what? Me? At 16 years old, played his last live appearance. Oh my God. So it was a trip, pretty trip. But he liked us because we didn't do the fanboy thing. Yeah. He felt he can come up and watch us rehearse. I smoked a couple joints with him, and he felt safe with us,
And obviously, he's like one of the biggest rock stars of all time. I mean, what was he like just to hang around with? And what was he like as a person at that time?
Yeah, well, he was really, it's hard to remember so long ago. This was 1975, but he was very nice, very nice. Matter of fact, I'm sitting there, we're smoking a joint, and we're talking about Italian food. And I said, well, my family's Italian. My grandmother's from Italy. My mom makes the best lasagna in the world. And then we had a conversation about it. And I said, I'll have her make you some. So a couple of days later, I bring in a pan of lasagna to the studio. I see John. I give it to John. He was surprised. He was happy. Oh, okay. So he took it home. And about a month later, my brother's playing with Rod Stewart at Madison Square Garden for a bunch of nights. And there's a big party. So my parents went to the party. I was on the road with Derringer at the time. This was a little later on, I guess. And my mom sees John Lennon and my father. She goes, let's go say hi. She's from Brooklyn. It doesn't matter, right? So Colleen brings her over, introduces John to my mother, and says, this is my mom, and this is Vinny's mom. She made you lasagna. Oh, and they chatted for a while. And at the end of the conversation, my mom asked John Lennon, did you bring the pan? He had the lasagna pan. Like she thought, hey, he might bring the lasagna pan back. Who knows? He didn't know she was coming. So yeah, it was a funny story, but it was great hanging out together.
I bet it was. And how was that going back to school then? Because you said you were at school when you were hanging out with him. I mean, well, that sounds crazy.
That was hard. I'd sit in school going, "This is so black and white." Last night I was in a world of color, and what am I doing here? And I would be tapping on the desk, the teacher's trying to teach. She'd go, wait, who's that drumming? Vincent, stop that drumming. So I would stand up and go, excuse me, did anyone else in this classroom play with one of the Beatles last night? And I got up and I left. I quit high school.
That's what they call mic drop these days. That is definitely one of their moments.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I knew I was going to play. My brother was successful. My parents knew he was successful, that there was a living in it, And so I knew what I was going to do. Luckily, it happened for me. And later on, I did get they call it equivalency high school diploma. I did do that. And but it was really trippy going to school after hanging out with John Lennon. I mean, Jesus.